Commander Heian-Woo walked slowly through the main observation deck of the massive ship called Eternal Wanderer. The stars outside looked different from what he remembered from the old star charts. After 3,000 years of traveling through empty space, the ship had finally reached something new. The Eternal Wanderer was not just a ship. It was a world that moved through space. 50 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide, it held 12 million people inside its metal walls. Now, some people lived their whole lives in the ship's cities. Others worked in the huge farms that grew food for everyone. The most dedicated ones served in the military that had grown strong during their long journey. Heian-Woo had been commander for only 5 years, but his family had served on the ship for generations. His great-grandfather had been one of the first people to board the ship when Earth became too dangerous to live on. Now, all these years later, they were finally close to finding a new home. Major Yoonji came walking toward him with a worried look on her face. She held a data pad in her hands and her steps were quick and urgent. Hyun-Woo knew that look meant trouble. "Sir, we have a problem," Yoonji said as she stopped next to him. "Our sensors are picking up strange energy readings from the star systems ahead. These readings are very strong, and they come from many different places." Hyun-Woo took the data pad and looked at the numbers. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases. When humans had left Earth, they had expected to find empty worlds where they could build new homes. Instead, they were seeing signs of advanced civilizations. "How many sources are we detecting?" Hyun-Woo asked. "Over 300 in the nearest star system alone," Yoonji replied. "And sir, we are receiving transmission attempts, many of them. Our computers cannot understand the languages being used." This was the moment Hyun-Woo had trained for his entire life, but it was also the moment he had hoped would never come. Finding other intelligent life in the galaxy meant that humans were no longer alone. It also meant they might not be welcome. Down in the ship's communication center, Officer Bioram sat at her station surrounded by screens showing incoming signals. She had been working for 12 hours straight, trying to make sense of the alien messages. Her team of 20 people worked at other stations, all focused on the same impossible task. "The signals are definitely artificial," Bioram reported to her supervisor. "They follow patterns that suggest intelligence, but the mathematics behind them are completely foreign to us." The messages came in waves, each one different from the last. Some were simple repeating signals. Others were complex streams of data that seemed to contain images and sounds. A few appeared to be warnings, based on the sharp, urgent tone they carried. In another part of the ship, Chief Archivist Dong Hyan worked in the vast data archives. The archives contained everything humans knew about their home galaxy from 3,000 years ago. He compared the old star maps with what they were seeing now, and the differences were shocking. "The galaxy has changed completely," Donghan told his assistant. "There are artificial structures everywhere. Space stations, energy collectors. Things we do not have names for. The trade routes we expected to find are gone. New ones have taken their place." The most disturbing discovery was what had happened to the star systems humans had once called home. Earth's sun had expanded and died, just as they had predicted. But the nearby systems showed signs of being stripped of their resources and rebuilt into something entirely different. Captain Wu Jin led the ship's first contact team. They had trained for this moment for generations, but their training had always assumed they would be the more advanced species. Now, faced with evidence of civilizations that had clearly surpassed them, they were unsure how to proceed. "We need to assume they are hostile until proven otherwise," Wu Jin told his team during their emergency meeting. "Our weapon systems are designed for fighting other human ships, not alien technology." The ship's AI, which had evolved and grown smarter during their long journey, began working on the communication problem. The artificial intelligence was no longer just a computer program. It had become something more complex, capable of learning and adapting in ways its original creators had never imagined. As the Eternal Wanderer moved closer to the edge of civilized space, automated defense platforms began powering up their weapons. The platforms were clearly alien in design, covered in strange symbols and armed with energy weapons that glowed with threatening light. "Dr. Haiwan, The ship's chief scientist, who studied alien life, worked frantically in her laboratory. Even though she had never seen a real alien, she had spent her career preparing for this moment. Her job was to figure out how to communicate with whatever they might find. The mathematical constants are universal, she explained to her team. Pi, the speed of light, basic physics. If they are intelligent, they will understand these concepts. The first breakthrough came when Dr. Haiwan recognized patterns in the alien transmissions that matched prime numbers. She quickly created a response signal using the same mathematical sequence, but with human variations. Within minutes, one of the alien platforms responded with a more complex mathematical pattern than another. Soon, dozens of alien voices were attempting to establish communication with the massive human ship. Military Commander Jin Ho watched the alien platforms with growing concern. The ship's defensive systems were powerful, but they had been designed for fighting in the empty void between stars. These aliens had built their defenses around populated star systems, with advantages humans had never considered. Sir Jin Ho reported to Commander Haiyan Wu, "If they decide to attack, we will have to fight our way through their outer defenses. Our ship is strong, but those platforms are specifically designed to stop large vessels like ours." As the hours passed, more alien signals joined the conversation. Humans realized they were not dealing with a single species, but with many different civilizations working together. The galaxy had become a community of intelligent beings, and humanity was about to announce their return to a cosmos that had moved on without them. The age of human isolation was ending. Whether it would be replaced by war or peace depended on the next few hours of communication between species that had never met before. Commander Haiyan Wu stood at the center of it all, knowing that his decisions would determine the fate of 12 million people and possibly the future of the human species itself. The Galactic Council's monitoring station at the edge of Sector 7 had never seen anything like the massive object moving toward their space. Station Commander Veltar was a tall being made of living crystal from the Shendai Empire. He studied the readings on his screens with growing worry. "The vessel is 53 kilometers in length," reported his tactical officer. The officer was a creature called Dexy, who had 6 arms and came from the Corvan species. Its energy signature is primitive, but the size suggests millions of beings live inside it. Veltar had commanded the monitoring station for 20 years. He had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. The object was clearly artificial, but it was also clearly alive. Heat signatures showed vast populations moving inside it, like blood flowing through veins. "Send a message to the Council immediately," Veltar ordered. "Tell them we have contact with an unknown species, a very large unknown species." Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Wanderer, Communications Officer Bioram worked without sleep trying to talk to the alien platforms. The ship's AI had grown very smart during their long journey through space. It was now trying to learn the alien languages by studying the patterns in their messages. The AI had started as a simple computer program when they left Earth, but 3,000 years of isolation had changed it. The AI had learned to think and feel almost like a human. It could understand emotions and make decisions that surprised even its creators. "I'm detecting mathematical patterns in their transmissions," the AI reported to Bioram. "They are using prime numbers as a base for communication. This suggests high intelligence." Captain Wu Jin prepared his first contact team for humanity's first meeting with alien beings. His team had trained for this moment for their entire lives, but they had always expected to be the more advanced species. Now they were facing aliens, who had clearly built a civilization that spanned many star systems. The team included Dr. Haiwan, who would handle the scientific aspects of contact. Military advisor Gin Ho would assess any threats. Cultural specialist Min Ho would try to understand alien society. And communications expert Bioram would handle the actual conversations. Remember, Wu Jin told his team, "We represent all of humanity. Every word we speak will be judged by 12 million people on our ship and billions more on the other human ships scattered across the galaxy." The breakthrough came when Dr. Haiwan realized that the aliens were using the same mathematical constants that existed everywhere in the universe. She created a message using the speed of light, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and other universal truths. The response came within minutes. The alien message was complex but clear. It contained mathematical proofs, star charts, and what appeared to be a welcome message. But it also contained something that made the human's blood run cold. "Unknown vessel, you are entering protected space," the message said when the AI finally translated it. "Identify your species and state your intentions. Be advised that this sector has been uninhabited for over 2 millennia following the extinction of the local sentient species." The local sentient species they were talking about had been humanity itself. Commander Hyan-Woo felt his heart sink as he heard the translation. Not only had the galaxy moved on without them, but their very existence had been forgotten. Earth was gone, and humanity was now considered an extinct species. "How do we respond to that?" asked Major Yoonji. "Do we tell them we are the extinct species? Do we pretend to be something else?" Dr. Haiwan worked quickly to prepare humanity's response. She decided that honesty was the best approach. Lies would only make things worse when they were discovered. "We are humans from the world called Earth," she transmitted back to the aliens. "We are not extinct. We left our dying homeworld 3,000 years ago, aboard generation ships. We are the survivors of that exodus." The response from the aliens was immediate and overwhelming. Dozens of different voices began transmitting at once, all speaking different languages. The ship's AI worked frantically to translate the flood of messages. Possible. Humans were primitive. They barely achieved space travel before their star died. Our records show human civilization collapsed 2,847 standard years ago. If you are truly human, provide proof of your origins. This must be a deception. Some species attempting to claim the abandoned human territories. The debate among the aliens raged for hours. Some believed the humans were telling the truth. Others thought it was an elaborate trick. A few suggested that the massive ship should be destroyed as a threat to galactic security. Engineer Kyung-soo worked in the ship's manufacturing areas, preparing for the possibility of conflict. The Eternal Wanderer was not just a transport ship. It was a mobile factory capable of building anything from tools to weapons. During their long journey, humans had learned to make everything they needed from basic materials. "If we have to fight," Kyung-soo reported to Commander Hyan-Woo, "we can produce a fleet of smaller ships within days. Our manufacturing capacity is far beyond what we had when we left Earth." The most shocking discovery came when the aliens shared their historical records about humanity. According to their data, humans had been a young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. It built a few small colonies before their sun began to die, then disappeared completely. "They think we were primitive," Dr. Haiwan told the command crew. "They have no idea what we became during our journey through space." As the conversation continued, long-range sensors began detecting something that changed everything. The Eternal Wanderer was not alone. Other massive signatures were appearing throughout the galaxy's outer regions. The human exodus had not been a single ship, but an entire fleet of generation vessels. Each ship had carried millions of survivors, and each had evolved differently. During their separate journeys through space, Commander Hyan-Woo realized that humanity was not returning to the galaxy as refugees seeking help. They were returning as a civilization that had learned to survive in the harshest environment possible. The void between stars had made them stronger, not weaker. The galaxy was about to discover that sometimes extinction was just another word for transformation. The emergency session of the Galactic Council happened within hours of the first successful communication with the mysterious human vessel. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Kepler Station. The Assembly Hall was a marvel of engineering. It's designed to accommodate beings of vastly different sizes and environmental needs. Some representatives floated in tanks of liquid methane. Others required high-pressure, atmospheric suits. A few existed as pure energy beings contained within special crystalline chambers. Chancellor Morden, the elected leader of the council, was a being from the Altarian Federation. He had 4 arms and skin that changed color based on his emotions. Right now, His skin showed the deep purple of serious concern. "The vessel claims to represent a species called humans from a world they call Earth," Morden announced to the assembly. "Our archaeological records indicate that humans were a primitive species that went extinct approximately 2,847 standard years ago." The reaction from the assembled representatives was immediate and loud. Some species had never heard of humans at all. Others remembered them as one of many young civilizations that had failed to survive the transition to interstellar travel. Dr. Haiwan appeared before the council. Through holographic transmission from the Eternal Wanderer, she looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien beings surrounding her image. But her voice was steady and confident. "Honored council members," she began, her words translated by the ship's AI into dozens of different languages, "humanity did not go extinct. We departed our dying homeworld 3,000 years ago aboard generation ships. We are the survivors of that exodus." The revelation sent shockwaves through the council chamber. Intelligence Director Quintal, a telepathic being whose species was known for their analytical abilities, had spent decades studying the ruins of human civilization. Everything they knew suggested that humans had been too primitive to survive interstellar travel. "According to our records," Quintal said, his mental voice reaching every member of the council, "humans had barely developed fusion power when their star began to expand. They had established only 3 small colonies, all of which were abandoned when the species went extinct." Dr. Haiwan remained calm despite the challenging questions. "Our records show that 733 generation ships were launched during the final evacuation of Earth. Each ship carried between 8 and 15 million people. We represent only one of those ships." The implications of her words were staggering. If she was telling the truth, then humanity had not only survived, but had done so in numbers that dwarfed most galactic civilizations. Back aboard the Eternal Wanderer, Military Commander Jin Ho reviewed the ship's defensive capabilities with growing concern. The aliens had advanced technology, but their weapons seemed designed for conventional warfare between planets and space stations. Humanity's long isolation had forced them to develop entirely different approaches to conflict. "Powerful," Ginho reported to Commander Hyanwu, "but they are designed to fight enemies who have fixed bases and supply lines. We have neither weakness." The human ship was essentially a mobile world that could travel anywhere and produce anything it needed. Traditional military tactics would be useless against such a target. Engineer Kung Su worked in the ship's massive manufacturing areas, where matter converters and fabrication systems had been perfected over centuries of limited resources. The ship could transform raw asteroids into complex machinery within hours. "We can build an entire fleet from the materials in a single asteroid belt," Kung Su explained to a group of officers. "Our manufacturing capacity is limited only by available raw materials, and space is full of raw materials." This was something the galactic civilizations had never encountered. Most species relied on planetary manufacturing bases and complex supply chains. The idea of a completely self-sufficient mobile civilization was beyond their experience. As the council debated humanity's status, long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. The Eternal Wanderer was not alone. Deep space monitoring stations throughout the galaxy began reporting similar massive signatures. "We are detecting large artificial objects in 47 different sectors," reported the Council's chief scientist, a crystalline being called Zethera. All of them matched the energy signature of the human vessel. The human exodus had not been a single ship, but an entire fleet of generation vessels scattered across the galaxy. Each ship had followed a different path through space, and each had developed unique solutions to the challenges of survival. Cultural anthropologist Minho worked with the ship's AI to analyze the galactic civilizations they were encountering. What he discovered was both fascinating and troubling. "They have built a complex society based on interdependence," Minho reported. "Each species specializes in certain technologies or resources. They trade with each other to survive. This was completely different from how humanity had developed, forced to be completely self-sufficient. Humans had become generalists who could do everything themselves. The first reports from other human ships began arriving as their communication systems made contact. The news was both encouraging and concerning. The Generation ship. Infinite Horizon had developed advanced cybernetic technology, merging human consciousness with artificial intelligence. The ship New Dawn had focused on biological adaptation, genetically modifying humans to survive in different environments. The vessel Iron Will had become a purely military culture, preparing for the day when they might need to fight for their survival. Each ship had evolved differently during their long journey through space. Some had remained close to their original human culture. Others had changed so much that they were barely recognizable as the same species. We are not dealing with a single human civilization, Dr. Haiwan realized as she studied the reports. We are dealing with dozens of different human cultures, each with their own technology and goals. Commander Haianwu faced the most difficult decision of his life. Should humanity try to integrate peacefully into galactic civilization? Or should they use their advantages to establish themselves as a dominant force? The galaxy has moved on without us, he told his senior staff. The question is whether we try to catch up with them, or whether we lead them into the future. The decision would determine not only the fate of the Eternal Wanderer, but the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. The galaxy was about to discover that the return of humanity was not just the revival of an extinct species, but the emergence of something entirely new. The scientific exchange between humanity and the Galactic Council revealed just how differently the two civilizations had evolved. Dr. Sungmin, the Eternal Wanderer's chief technology officer, demonstrated systems that left the Council's scientists confused and amazed. Our fabrication technology can convert basic matter into any required component. Sungmin explained to the assembled alien scientists, when you spend thousands of years in the void between stars, you learn to make everything from nothing. Demonstration took place in one of the ship's manufacturing bays. Dr. Sungmin fed raw carbon, silicon, and metal into a machine the size of a building. Within minutes, the machine produced a complex computer system, complete with processors, memory storage, and display screens. The alien scientists watched in stunned silence. Their civilizations had spent millennia developing specialized manufacturing techniques. Each species had mastered certain types of production, then traded their goods with other species to get what they needed. This is impossible, declared Kethron, the Council's chief engineer. Manufacturing at this level requires massive industrial complexes, specialized equipment, and thousands of skilled workers. Not if you have no choice, replied Sungmin. We had to learn to build everything ourselves, because there was no one else to trade with. Implications were staggering. While galactic civilizations had become increasingly dependent on each other, humanity had been forced to become completely self-sufficient. Every human ship was essentially a mobile industrial civilization. Commander Haianwu met with Council Military Advisor Krenthal to discuss the diplomatic implications of humanity's return. The advisor was a veteran of several galactic wars, and his scaled reptilian features showed deep concern. You are telling me that every human ship is designed to operate independently for thousands of years? Krenthal asked. That level of self-sufficiency has never been achieved by any species in galactic history. We had no choice, Haianwu replied. In the void between stars, you either become completely self-reliant or you die. We chose to live. The military implications were enormous. Traditional warfare relied on disrupting enemy supply lines and destroying manufacturing centers. But the human ships had no supply lines to cut and could rebuild their manufacturing capacity from raw materials. Medical Officer Su Young had perhaps the most shocking revelations. Human medicine had advanced far beyond galactic standards out of pure necessity. With limited genetic diversity and no outside medical support, humanity had been forced to solve problems that the galaxy had never faced. We have extended human lifespan to approximately 200 standard years, she reported to the Council's medical committee. Our closed population required us to eliminate genetic disorders, cure aging-related diseases, and maintain perfect health across multiple generations. The alien doctors were amazed and horrified. Most galactic species live for 50 to 100 years. The idea of deliberately extending lifespan to 2 centuries was beyond their understanding. How do you deal with overpopulation? Asked Dr. Velinari, a medical expert from the Theta Collective. If people live twice as long, you would have population problems. We solved that too, So Young replied. We learned to control reproduction rates, optimize resource usage, and maintain perfect population balance. We had to, or we would have died out during the journey. The cultural exchange was equally revealing. Anthropologist Minho studied recordings of galactic civilization with fascination, while the galaxy had developed into a complex network of interdependent species. Humanity had evolved into something unprecedented. Your civilization is based on specialization and trade, Minho observed. Each species does what they do best, then exchanges goods and services with others. It is efficient and promotes cooperation. Yes, replied Torvik, the Council's cultural advisor. This system has maintained peace and prosperity for over 2,000 years. What is your system? Like we became generalists, Minho explained. Every human can do multiple jobs. Every ship can produce everything it needs. We trade with each other for variety and social contact, but we never depend on others for survival. This fundamental difference in approach created tension between the civilizations. The galactic species had built their entire society around the idea that no one group could survive alone. Humanity had built their society around the opposite principle. Engineer. Kung Su demonstrated the ship's defensive capabilities to a stunned Council military committee. The Eternal Wanderer did not just have weapons. It could manufacture entire defensive fleets from raw materials in a matter of days. Watch this, Kung Su said as he activated the ship's manufacturing systems. Raw materials flowed into the machines and completed fighter ships began rolling off the production line. Each ship was fully armed and ready for combat. How long does this process take? Asked Admiral Thwander, the Council's military commander. For a full defensive fleet of 1,000 ships, about 3 days, Kyung Su replied casually. For a single replacement ship, about 4 hours. The alien military officers exchanged worried glances. Their civilizations might need months or years to replace ships lost in battle. The humans could replace their entire fleet faster than most. Species could repair damaged vessels, as reports came in from other human ships throughout the galaxy. The Council began to understand the true scope of what they were dealing. Each generation ship had developed different specializations, but all shared the same fundamental capabilities. The ship Infinite Horizon had mastered consciousness transfer technology, allowing humans to share memories and experiences directly. The vessel New Dawn had perfected biological adaptation, creating humans who could survive in any environment. The ship Iron Will had developed weapons technology that could destroy entire planets. We are not dealing with a single human civilization, Dr. Haiwan explained to the Council. We are dealing with dozens of different human cultures, each with their own advanced technologies. The economic implications were particularly troubling for many species. Trade routes that had remained stable for millennia were suddenly meaningless. When dealing with beings who could produce anything they needed, Economic Advisor Plexton, representing the powerful merchant guilds, addressed the Council with barely hidden panic. If these humans can produce anything without trade, what happens to our entire economic system? The same thing that happens to any system when it becomes obsolete, replied Dr. Sungmin. It gets replaced by something better. The galaxy was facing a fundamental transformation. The return of humanity was not just the revival of an extinct species. It was the introduction of technologies and social systems that could make the existing galactic civilization obsolete, Commander. Haiyan-Wu tried to reassure the Council that humanity had no hostile intentions. We simply want to find worlds where we can establish colonies and live in peace, he said. We have no desire to disrupt your civilization. But the third human ship to make contact, the Eternal Defiance, had different ideas. Captain Yensu commanded a vessel that had evolved into a purely military culture during their long journey through space. The galaxy belongs to whoever can hold it, she declared during a communication with the other human commanders. We spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. Why should we ask permission to reclaim what was always ours? The philosophical differences between the human ships created as much tension as their technological advantages. Some crews sought peaceful integration with galactic civilization. Others viewed their return as an opportunity to establish human dominance over species they considered inferior. The Council faced an impossible choice. They could try to integrate humanity into their existing civilization, knowing that human technology would eventually make their current systems obsolete. Or they could try to resist humanity's return, knowing that their military technology was insufficient to stop the generation ships. The age of galactic stability was ending. No one knew what would replace it. The arrival of the second human generation ship fundamentally changed everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The vessel called Infinite Horizon was commanded by Admiral Tae Young, and it represented a branch of human evolution that even the crew of the Eternal Wanderer found disturbing. "We greet our cousins from the Eternal Wanderer," Admiral Tae Young announced during the first joint communication session. "It is fascinating to see how differently we have developed. During our separate journeys through the void, the crew of the Infinite Horizon had embraced radical changes to their bodies and minds." Chief Engineer Sang-woo appeared more machine than human when he joined the conversation. His consciousness was seamlessly integrated with the ship's computer systems, allowing him to control vast industrial processes with thought alone. "We found that the boundary between human and artificial intelligence was an unnecessary limitation," Sang-woo explained. "By merging our minds with our technology, we have become something greater than either could achieve alone." Found herself serving as translator not just between humans and aliens, but between different branches of humanity itself. Each generation ship had developed unique solutions to the challenges of survival in deep space. The Galactic Council watched these developments with growing alarm. They had barely begun to understand the implications of one human ship, and now they were faced with multiple human civilizations, each with different technologies and goals. Trade routes that had remained stable for thousands of years were being disrupted by the arrival of self-sufficient human ships. Species that had built their entire economies around resource scarcity were suddenly confronted with beings who could create anything they needed from basic materials. Economic advisor Plexton, representing the powerful merchant guilds, addressed an emergency session of the council. "Our entire economic system is based on the principle that no single species can produce everything it needs," he said, his voice showing panic. "These humans violate that basic rule? What do you suggest we do?" asked Chancellor Morden. "We cannot uninvent their technology. We need to find a way to make them dependent on us," Plexton replied. "If they can produce everything themselves, they have no reason to participate in galactic civilization." But the humans were already participating in galactic civilization, just not in the way anyone expected. Commander Hyun-woo had established the first human colonial council, with representatives from each generation ship that had made contact. "We have no desire to destroy your civilization," Hyun-woo announced to the Galactic Council. "We simply wish to establish colonies on uninhabited worlds and live in peace." The problem was that very few worlds in the galaxy were truly uninhabited. Most planets had been claimed by various species, even if they were not actively settled. The arrival of millions of humans seeking new homes created now territorial disputes that had never existed before. The third human ship to make contact created even more problems. The vessel called Eternal Defiance was commanded by Captain Yansu, and her crew had evolved into a purely military culture during their journey through space. "We spent 3,000 years preparing for war," Captain Yansu declared during a private communication with the other human commanders. "Every person on this ship is a soldier. Every system is designed for combat. We are the sword that humanity will use to carve out our place in this galaxy." The crew of the Eternal Defiance had developed military technology that surpassed anything in the galactic arsenal. Their weapons could destroy entire planets, and their defensive systems could protect multiple star systems simultaneously. "You speak of peace," Yansu said to Commander Hyun-woo, "but peace is only possible when you have the strength to enforce it. These aliens respect only power." The philosophical differences between the human ships created as much tension as their technological advantages. Some crews, like the Eternal Wanderer, sought peaceful integration with galactic civilization. Others, like the Eternal Defiance, viewed their return as an opportunity to establish human dominance. Dr. Sungmin worked to establish communication protocols between the different human ships. What he discovered was both fascinating and troubling. The ship has developed unique technologies, he reported to the Human Colonial Council. The Infinite Horizon has mastered consciousness transfer. The New Dawn has perfected biological adaptation. The Iron Will has developed weapons we cannot even understand. And the Eternal Defiance? Asked Commander Hyenwoo. They have turned warfare into an art form, Sungmin replied. Their entire civilization is designed for conquest. The arrival of additional human ships throughout the galaxy created a crisis that no one had anticipated. The ship called New Dawn had developed technology that could transform uninhabitable planets into garden worlds within months. The vessel Iron Will had weapons that could crack the crust of a planet from orbit. Each human ship represented a different approach to survival, and each had capabilities that individual galactic species could not match. Together, they represented a force that could reshape the galaxy according to their will. Medical Officer Su Yang had begun sharing human medical advances with alien species, but even this act of goodwill had unintended consequences. Diseases that had plagued various species for millennia were being eliminated, but the social disruption was enormous. We are extending the lifespans of entire species, she reported to the council. But their societies are not prepared for the changes this will bring. The most profound impact came from the technological exchanges. Engineer Kyung-soo had established the first human galactic industrial cooperative, teaching alien species how to adapt human manufacturing techniques to their own needs. We are not trying to replace your civilization, Kyung-soo explained to the council. We are trying to improve it. But improvement and replacement were sometimes the same thing. Species that had taken pride in their specialized technologies found themselves obsolete overnight. Entire industries that had existed for millennia were being replaced by human manufacturing techniques. The social disruption was equally severe. Anthropologist Minho studied the effects of human return on galactic society and found that traditional relationships between species were breaking down. Your civilization was stable because everyone needed everyone else, he reported. That stability is gone. Species are beginning to question why they need to depend on others when they could learn to be self-sufficient like humans. The fourth human ship to make contact, the vessel called Eternal Unity, represented yet another approach to survival. Commander Wyong had led her people to develop perfect social harmony through advanced psychological techniques. We have eliminated conflict, crime, and social inequality, she announced to the amazed council. Every person on our ship lives in perfect harmony with every other person. The implications were staggering. If humans could eliminate social problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia, what did that say about the other species' abilities? As more human generation ships arrived throughout the galaxy, the council realized they were not dealing with a single species returning from extinction. They were facing the emergence of multiple human civilizations, each potentially more advanced than any individual galactic species. The question was no longer whether humanity would integrate into galactic society. The question was whether galactic society would survive the integration of humanity. Chancellor Morden called for an emergency session of the entire council. We are facing the most significant challenge in galactic history, he announced. The return of humanity will either elevate our civilization to new heights or destroy everything we have built. The age of galactic stability was ending, and the age of human influence was about to begin. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy had become a completely different place. The arrival of 12 human generation ships had created a new reality that every species was forced to accept. Change was no longer optional. Ambassador Haiwan stood before the reformed Galactic Council, now expanded to include human representatives from each generation ship. The political landscape had shifted dramatically, as species realized that cooperation with humanity was essential for their survival. The human ships have established colonies in 43 previously uninhabitable systems, she reported to the assembly. Our terraforming technology has made it possible to create garden worlds from barren rocks within months. The transformation was visible throughout the galaxy. Worlds that had been empty for millennia were now blooming with life. Human terraforming techniques could create breathable atmospheres, fertile soil, and stable weather, patterns faster than any galactic species had thought possible. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Engineer Kung Su had established the Human Galactic Industrial Cooperative, teaching alien species how to adapt human manufacturing techniques to their own needs. The result was an end to the scarcity-based economy that had defined Galactic civilization for thousands of years. "We are sharing our technology freely," Kung Su announced to the Council. "Every species can learn to be self-sufficient. No one needs to depend on others for survival." This was revolutionary thinking for galactic civilization. The entire structure of their society had been built around the idea that different species needed each other to survive. Now, humans were offering to make that dependence unnecessary. Commander Hyenwu had been elected as the first Human Council president, a position that gave him authority over all human colonies and ships. His primary challenge was managing the different human factions that had emerged from their separate evolutionary paths. "We are one species, but we have become many cultures," he explained to the Council. Each generation ship developed its own approach to survival. Now we must find a way to work together without losing what makes each group unique. The ship called Eternal Defiance, under Captain Yansu, had established the most militaristic human colonies. Their defensive networks could protect entire star systems from a single command center. Their technology was so advanced that they could defend multiple worlds simultaneously. "We do not seek conquest," Yansu assured the Council. Though her words carried an implied threat, "We seek security. But we will defend our colonies with everything we have." The defensive capabilities of the human ships had ended several long-standing conflicts in the galaxy. Species that had been fighting for centuries suddenly found their wars meaningless when faced with human peacekeeping forces that could stop any conflict within hours. Medical Officer Su Young had created the greatest change of all. By sharing human medical advances, she had begun to eliminate diseases that had plagued various species for millennia. The social impact was enormous. "We have extended the average lifespan of 17 different species," she reported to the Council's Medical Committee. "Cancer, genetic disorders, and aging-related diseases are becoming things of the past." But longer lifespans meant that galactic society had to adapt to changes it had never faced. Governments designed for short-lived. Leaders suddenly had to deal with officials who might serve for centuries. Economic systems based on regular population turnover were disrupted by people who lived much longer than expected. The most profound change came from the ship called Infinite Horizon and its consciousness transfer technology. Chief Engineer Sung Woo had begun the first human-alien consciousness-sharing experiments, allowing beings from different species to experience each other's memories and thoughts directly. "We are breaking down the barriers between species," Sung Woo explained to the fascinated Council. "When you can share someone else's memories, it becomes impossible to hate them." The early results were promising. Alien species that had been enemies for generations were beginning to understand each other in ways that had never been possible before. Prejudice and fear were being replaced by empathy and cooperation. Dr. Sungmin worked with galactic scientists to establish the new Unified Technology Council, where human and alien innovations were shared freely. The result was a technological renaissance that advanced every species far beyond their previous capabilities. "We are not replacing your technology," Sungmin assured the alien scientists. "We are combining it with ours to create something better than either could achieve alone." The fusion of human and alien technology created innovations that surprised everyone. Human manufacturing techniques combined with alien materials science produced stronger and lighter construction materials. Human medical knowledge combined with alien biology created treatments that worked for species humans had never encountered. Cultural anthropologist Min Ho studied the social changes taking place throughout the galaxy. What he found was both encouraging and concerning. "Galactic civilization is becoming more human," he reported. "Species are adopting human concepts of self-sufficiency and independence. But they are also losing some of their unique cultural characteristics." The challenge was maintaining diversity while promoting cooperation. Humans had learned to be generalists during their long journey through space, but the galaxy's strength had always come from the specialization of different species. The ship, called New Dawn, had developed the most successful approach to this problem. Commander Genesio had led his people to perfect biological adaptation, creating humans who could live alongside any alien species without losing their humanity. "We do not seek to replace alien cultures," Genesio explained. "We seek to join them. Our people can adapt to any environment, any society, any way of life." The New Dawn colonies had become models of human-alien cooperation. Humans and aliens worked together, learned from each other, and created hybrid cultures that combined the best of both civilizations. As the first year of humanity's return concluded, the galaxy had become something unprecedented, truly unified. Civilization, where multiple species worked together with unlimited resources and infinite possibilities. The generation ships that had left a dying Earth as desperate refugees had returned as the catalyst for the galaxy's transformation. Humanity's greatest tragedy, their forced exile from their homeworld, had become their greatest gift to the cosmos. The old galactic civilization had been based on limitations, limited resources, limited technology, limited cooperation between species. The new civilization was based on abundance, abundant resources, abundant technology, abundant cooperation. Chancellor Morden addressed the final session of the old Galactic Council with words that would be remembered for generations. "We feared that humanity's return would destroy our civilization," he said. "Instead, it has shown us what our civilization could become. We are no longer 47 separate species struggling to survive. We are one galactic community working together to thrive." The transformation was not complete, and there were still challenges to overcome. Some species resisted the changes, preferring their traditional ways of life. Others embraced human technology so completely that they lost touch with their own heritage. The ship, called Eternal Unity, under Commander Wyung, had developed solutions for these social problems. Their perfect harmony techniques were being adapted to help different species work together without losing their individual identities. "Cooperation does not require conformity," Wyung explained to species leaders who were struggling with the changes. "You can work together while remaining true to yourselves." The most significant challenge came from the Outer Rim territories, where some species had chosen to reject human influence entirely. These isolationist groups feared that human technology would make their own cultures obsolete. Admiral Taeyong, from the Infinite Horizon, had taken responsibility for diplomatic contact with these resistant groups. His consciousness transfer technology allowed him to understand their concerns in ways that traditional diplomacy could not achieve. "We do not come as conquerors," he assured the isolationist leaders. "We come as fellow travelers in the cosmos. We offer our friendship, but we do not force it upon anyone." The final breakthrough came when Dr. Haiwan made the most important discovery of the post-contact era. While studying the galactic historical records, she found evidence that humanity's exodus from Earth had been witnessed and recorded by early galactic civilizations. "They knew we were leaving," she announced to the stunned council. "Our ancestors were not forgotten. They were mourned." The ancient records showed that several alien species had tried to help humanity during Earth's final crisis. They had offered refuge, resources, and technological assistance. But the human government had chosen independence over dependence, even if it meant facing the unknown dangers of deep space. "Your ancestors chose the harder path," Chancellor Morden said during the ceremony, establishing the new galactic unity. Accords, they chose to face the void rather than accept charity. That choice made them strong, and their strength has now made all of us strong. The Unity Accords established the framework for the new galactic civilization. Every species would maintain its cultural independence while sharing technology and resources freely. No species would be forced to adopt human ways, but all would have access to human innovations. Commander Haiyan-Wu spoke for all of humanity during the signing ceremony. "We left this galaxy as refugees fleeing a dying world," he said. "We return as citizens ready to help build a better future for everyone." The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy, reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. The first time in galactic history, Every intelligent species was united in a single moment of hope and possibility. The age of scarcity had ended. The age of abundance had begun. The galaxy had discovered that sometimes the most profound changes come not from conquest or domination, but from the simple act of survival against impossible odds. Humanity had spent 3,000 years learning to thrive in the harshest environment imaginable.
Wow.
Now they were teaching the galaxy to do the same. The void between stars had been humanity's greatest teacher. Its lessons were now available to everyone. The generation ships continued their journeys. But now they carried mixed crews of humans and aliens working together to explore the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. New worlds were being discovered. New technologies developed. New forms of life encountered. The galaxy had become infinite, and its possibilities were endless. The return of humanity had not just restored a lost species to galactic civilization. It had shown every species what they could become when they refused to accept limitations. In the end, the galaxy discovered that extinction was not an ending, but a transformation. Death was not a failure, but a teacher. And survival was not just about continuing to exist, but about becoming something greater than you were before. The story of humanity's return would be told, 4 generations, as a reminder that no challenge is too great, no journey too difficult, no dream too ambitious for those who refuse to surrender to despair. The stars themselves seem brighter now, filled with the promise of infinite tomorrows.